What's going on? Play Game here, back with another Epic 7 video, and today we're going over the balance adjustment preview for December 22nd. We got 3 5-star Moonlight heroes here. We got Dark Corvus, Briar, Iseria, Astromancer Elena. Yes, Astromancer Elena, which just recently got released. We also got Cez buffs. A lot of people have been asking for Cez buffs, so here they come. Yufine, Celine, and 3-star Moonlight unit Camilla. We also have the 5-star artifact Samasara Prayer Beads, Celestine, and the 4-star artifact Andre's Crossbow. So we got 3 RGB 5-stars and 3 ML5s, and it looks like we're getting a system improvement in this one, which is something that's slightly different from the other balance adjustments that they've done. This one states that a successful attack always results in a critical hit. And that's going to be for ML Ken, Yuna, Charlotte, Shuri, Ainz, and Melanie. So I think that that's a good clarification. Starting with Dark Corvus here though. Dark Corvus is now going to have a 100% chance to provoke on turn 1. I think that's great because you want to pull units to hit you, right? If you're running Dark Corvus, you want to lower his cooldown on his S3 as fast as possible, but you can never lock anyone down with the S1 because it's a 75% chance. Now it's a 100% chance. I think that's great. He is now immune to stun, so he can't be stun locked. I think that's another great thing. Hey, give him cannot be CC'd, cannot get stunned, right? Just let him do his job. That's kind of what I've run into, right? You usually have to bring in cleansers, maybe someone to CR push him, right? But now he can't at least be stunned. So you can still remove attack break, the healing, anti-healing, the miss hit debuff, all that defense break. You can at least still cleanse that. Now he won't be stunned. So no matter what, he can still get his attack off unless he's silenced, right? Unless he's silenced. His S3, they reduced it to 7 turns, which is, I think, pretty big. I used to be on an 8-turn cooldown. So now if you don't have like green Iseria on your team, if you're not running her in like GVG, to reset his cooldown, it's 7 turns. So it's a lot faster if you're fighting him. So I think that's great, especially with his extinction. It's going to allow him to cycle a lot faster and not get controlled. We do got Briar, which is Iseria here. One of the units that I really wanted to pull for, but when we pulled for her, you know, she wasn't that great. She got a buff like shortly after that, but still was not in a good spot. So let's see what they do with her. So she throws swords at the enemy with a 75% chance to decrease defense for 1 turn. But now a successful attack deals additional damage proportional to her own attack. So it's kind of like the drink artifact, where it deals that additional damage, kind of like Uberia's Tooth, right? So she has that built into her S1. So now she can defense break and then deal some additional damage, which I think is nice. Witch's Curse. This one increases hit chance by 35%. It looks like they increase that to 50%. So it increases hit chance by 50%. And then that a successful attack inflicts additional damage. This one, they moved it to the S1, which I think is fine. But they added this: allies and enemies cannot revive. So she doesn't allow any revives while she's on the field, right? And this is her passive, so she doesn't really need to do anything other than this. I think this is great, right? It keeps Apocalypse Ravi from rezzing someone. She does have that immortality built into her kit. So that means that she can at least survive. And then if Apoc Ravi is on the team, right, she can't res. They have a Ruel, they have made Chloe, right? You take out maybe 1 unit, a squishy, and then they can't revive. She also has the increased hit chance on her S2, her passive, since they did increase it by 50%. And then on her Cursed Thorn, attacks all enemies with a Cursed Thorn Bush, dispelling all buffs. Now she has a 75% chance to decrease defense for 2 turns. This is pretty big, okay? Because before, she would not defense break, AoE defense break, okay? She would strip and then decrease attack. and then make you unable to be buffed. That's pretty much it. Now she has a 75% chance to decrease defense for 2 turns. So AoE defense break, even though it's only 75%, 100% chance to make them unable to be buffed. So they switched out the attack break for a defense break, giving her the ability to allow you to deal more damage, right? To follow up right after her. Keep in mind, it's still 75% chance. So there's a good chance that you do land AoE defense break, but it's there to help support the rest of your team to allow you to deal more damage, right? And then here, a successful attack deals additional damage proportional to her attack. And they gave her an ignore effect resistance soul burn on her skill number 3. Because why not, right? Unable to be buffed, AoE defense break. No one can revive. Keep in mind, the no revive is also on your side. So it's not like Bellion, right? Where she doesn't allow any souls for the opposing player. I think that's fair, right? I think this is a bit more fair than the Bellion thing. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm interested to see how she fits in the meta. Astromancer Elena. So this unit, the problem with her is that she's not fast enough to be an opener, and she doesn't deal enough damage to be like a follow-up, right? And they can just cleanse the can't counter debuff and be fine, right? She doesn't do anything after she S3s. Her S2 CR push does nothing. Her S1 does nothing. So let's see what they did with her. So Astromancer Elena, at the start of the battle, grants Star's Blessing for 1 turn. When the caster is granted Star's Blessing, enemy heroes cannot counterattack. Okay, so that is a lot better than the unable to counterattack debuff, because when she has that buff, they just can't counter. That's it. So as long as she's on the field and she has that buff, the enemy units can't counterattack. After an ally, except for the caster, attacks all enemies, activates Worship Me. So after you get hit with an AoE, Worship Me can only be activated once every 3 turns. This increases combat readiness of the caster by 20%. So it gives herself a CR push by 20%. And so Star's Blessing, this with that, I guess her unique buff, it increases critical hit damage by 15%. Star's Blessing cannot be dispelled. So it's like, as long as she's on the field, kind of like Solitaria, right? Where she doesn't allow focus. So as long as she's on the field, has her debuff or has her buff, Star's Blessing, she's going to increase her attack and critical hit damage by 15%. And the enemy cannot counterattack. That's pretty strong. I think that is how they should have released her, right? Because this makes her a lot more viable. Now, all you need to do is just bring her in. All you need to do is just bring her on your team, like in GVG, for example. If she goes before the opponent, or even if she goes right after the opener, she can still get her buff off, give herself attack, crit damage buff to allow her to deal damage, right? All those things that we talked about, they kind of tweaked, and we'll see how much damage she does now, right? But I think it's going to put her in a way better spot. So her Enraged Star's Retribution, this attacks all enemies with the energy of Enraged Star, decreasing buff durations by 1 turn. So this is her S3, okay? Before making them unable and unhealable and restricting for 2 turns. So they can't heal and they're restricted before they would get hit with that unable to counterattack debuff. And I think that's a good trade-off, right? Because this is targeting units that have like counter lifesteal, mainly Chu, right? I'm looking at you, Chu, right? She counters you, heals. This slaps them with unhealable and restrict can't CR push, and then she gets that Star's Blessing. It's a 5-turn cooldown this time, so they increased the cooldown. But I think that's fine because all she needs to do is just be on the team. Keep in mind, she doesn't have any survivability, okay? So all this is pretty offensive. So I think it puts her in a better spot for cleave or like high aggro team comps, because you're not letting the opposing team counter as long as she's on the team or alive, right? You can't counter, can't heal, you're restricted. I think that's a good trade-off. I think she's a lot better now that they kind of switched that up. So we'll see how she gets play in the current meta. Says the 5-star RGB unit here. So I haven't seen Says since the Says bomb. Okay, and that's been a very long time. It's been a few years. All right, I think I started playing when like a little bit before the Says bomb like got nerfed or something like that. It was around that time, okay? But Says here, he attacks the enemy with dark energy with a 50% chance to make them unhealable for 1 turn. After attacking, when the enemy's health is 50% or less, activates Encroach as an extra attack. It can only be activated once per turn during the caster's turn, so no counter build Says, okay? Releases dark power to attack all enemies with a 50% chance to make them unhealable for 1 turn. Damage dealt increases proportional to the target's lost health. So the less their HP, the more damage he's going to do. And they also increase the damage that Encroach does, which I think is nice, right? Damage increase buff. Now he scales off of lost health on the enemy team. So he is going to kind of close out games, right? Because the less damage they have, the more he's doing, the faster that the enemy dies. Die Hard, this was, I think, his Encroach. So they took his Encroach and they put it on his S1 and they gave him a brand new S2, right? Die Hard. Damage suffered in 1 attack does not exceed 51% of max health. So that's pretty nice. They're giving him some survivability. After being attacked, grants stealth for 1 turn. Stealth can only be activated once per turn. So giving him survivability, which he didn't really have before. He would hit you with the S1. Maybe he would get his S3 off, but then he would just die, right? No survivability. Now he has kind of like that Roy Mustang passive, right? Where he can't be one-shotted. So that's nice. And then he gets stealth, so he can be targeted after that. He is going to get a skill enhancement of damage received. So you're going to want a +5 mole of that, right? So that you get up to that 51%. His conviction, this one is his Says bomb, his S3. Inflicts lethal damage to the enemy. When the enemy is defeated, inflicts extinction. So he is now an extinction unit. Cannot revive, right? Once you get hit with that extinction, if he kills. They're increasing his damage dealt, which I think is nice. So I mean, more extinction units are always welcome. Keep in mind, he is an ice elemental unit, so we'll see where he fits. Yufine, though, I feel like Yufine always gets buffed, right? I don't know what it is about Yufine, but you know, they keep trying to bring her into the current meta. So we'll see, you know, what they do. So Dragon's Roar, she used to get an increased attack and defense to the caster for 2 turns. But now she's getting, well, no, she would get speed before. Now she's getting defense. Her soul burn, I think her soul burn was on her dragon charge before, which was her S3. They moved it to her Dragon's Roar, which is her S2, I believe. This is the one where she like screams and then she strips debuffs and hits you with silence. So the soul burn here extends buff durations granted by Dragon's Roar to the caster by 1 turn, and then grants an extra turn. So they gave her an extra turn on the S2. I think that's fine. Dragon Charge. This attacks the enemy with a massive blade, and when that enemy is defeated, resets cooldown for this skill. So this is the one that she would hit with a finishing blow, stripping, and stunning. This was her S3, right? So now when she kills, she resets the cooldown of the S3. When this skill is available according to the cooldown count, after an ally except for the caster attacks, if the target is silenced, increases combat radiance of the caster. So if they're silenced, right? And she has this S3 on cooldown, right? She gets a CR push, which I think is nice, right? I think it's fine. Her Dragon's Charge, I think, is going to be kind of interesting because when the opposing unit is silenced now, she's going to penetrate defense by 70%. So she's going to be straight up DPS now, right? Straight up DPS unit. I mean, I guess that's fine. I don't play Yufine too much. I was using her as a raid, Yufine raid boss type of unit. So, penetrate defense, that's the trend nowadays for DPS heroes. They kind of need to be able to penetrate defense in order to deal any kind of damage. So I think that's fine, Celine. So Celine, she's a unit that came out for anti-cleave, right? Anti-cleave, but there's a lot of ways to work around her. Mainly like Conquer Lilius, right? Conquer Lilius has a non-attack skill on her S2 and S3, but everyone just S1s and then they S1 into the Celine and then the Celine just gets exploded, right? So let's see if they do anything about that. So Celine here, when the enemy is not an elite or boss monster, damage sharing effects are ignored. So she would ignore damage sharing effects, okay, before. Now it looks like they removed that and they gave her an unaffected by elemental disadvantage. So fire units, right? Beware. Fire units, beware. She's not going to be affected by elemental disadvantage. And this is her intuition. This is the one where an enemy uses a non-attack skill. She gets that cleanse and then attacks a random enemy with blink. So this is something that I think is going to make her a lot more viable if you're bringing her up against like fire units, mainly fire units, right? Because she's not affected by that elemental disadvantage now. So it will allow her to potentially one-shot those fire units, right? Thunderclap, this is her S3. So this gives her evasion and barrier for 2 turns. When the enemy is not an elite or boss monster, damage sharing effects are ignored. So they moved her damage sharing from her S2 passive and they put it on her S3. Her S3 does do a lot of damage if you build her like full max damage, and the soul burn on the S3 is going to increase the damage dealt, which I think is pretty nice. I mean, this will really, depending on the damage, but I mean, I've been clapped by some Celines S2 into S3 before. So now I think this just makes her even more of a threat to actually one-shot units, right? To one-shot units, maybe make her a little bit faster, reduce the gear requirement since they're increasing the damage that she's dealing on a soul burn, getting that damage sharing effects ignore on the S3, right? So I like it. I like it. I think this is going to put her in a better spot, but it still doesn't solve people working around her not using your skills, right? Not using your skills. Camilla, 3-star Moonlight unit, is going to get an extra turn after doing her skill nullifier. So this is her S2. She's great in Ancient Inheritance. She puts up skill nullifier with her S2 and increased attack to her and the ally with the greatest attack. And then now she gets an extra turn. So you can go S2 into S1 because she also brings in the dual attack from that unit with the attack buff for the highest attack. So welcome buff. I like that one. That one's pretty nice. 5-star artifact, prayer beads. This is a meme artifact, okay? Meme artifact. So this artifact is completely useless, but let's see what they did with it. So before, it would give you effect resistance and defense buff. Up to a 40% chance to get it. That's it. So you weren't even guaranteed anything. All right. Now, when attacking with a single attack, increases damage dealt by 10%. So you're getting a straight up 10% damage dealt increase. So that's nice. Free stats. When attacked by a single attack, decreases damage suffered by up to 16%. So you're gaining more damage from single attacks and you're getting reduced damage from single attacks, which is nice. When more than one damage reduction effect is granted, only the strongest applies. So this is a warrior artifact, okay? So this is gonna make a warrior deal a little bit more damage, make them a little bit more tanky. I think that's fine, right? It is a 5-star artifact. I would have liked something else in here, maybe like a CR push or something like that. Like when you get hit, you get a slight CR push, reduce damage suffered, and then you get a CR push, kind of like a little Durandal, mini Durandal in there, something like that. Celestine, this one here. So this is a Soul Weaver artifact. This would heal the ally with the lowest health by up to 16% after you would skill 1, right? Now, after attacking with a single attack, heals the ally with the lowest health by 16%. So I think that's fine. This is single attack now, not a basic skill. So basic skills usually are your S1s, but now you can have a single attack on the S2 or the S3. So I think that's fine. I think that's great. Andre's crossbow. Before, up to 100% chance to remove 3 souls when you would use a single attack. Now increases hit chance and effectiveness by up to 20%. No one would use this artifact either. This is another meme artifact. No one would use this, right? But now they're giving it hit chance and effectiveness by up to 20%. Keep in mind, this is a 4-star artifact, so it is a lot easier to fully limit break this and get it all the way up to 20% hit chance, which I think is great. There are other better artifacts out there that you could potentially use, but this is potentially a free one, right? It's very difficult to fully limit break 5-star artifacts. The one that I'm thinking about is Misha, right? Kana's artifact. But this I think is a decent alternative if you don't have something like that. So we talked about the system adjustment, which is when the attack is successful, a critical chance increases to 100%. Now, when the attack is successful, inflicts a critical hit. So a successful attack always is going to result in a critical hit for those units that we talked about. So they are making that description change in their kit, but a lot of buffs. I'm excited for all of them. I don't know exactly who the winner is here. I think people are going to say Cez, right? Cez is the winner just because he finally got some buffs. But I actually do like all of the buffs, maybe except like Yufine's, right? I'm not too sure about Yufine's, but let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Let me know who you think the winner is of this patch. Like always, if you have enjoyed the video, hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed, hey, think about subscribing. It really helps the channel grow and reach more people like you who like content like this. Like always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.